Hello again. My name is Agnieszka Szmelter-Jarosz. I'm representing University of Gdańsk, one of the project partners in CE for CE project. And together with my colleagues, I proposed some few slides about preparing your KPIs for your actions within development of PTO operations and to meet the demands of different stakeholders. Let me go quickly through the agenda. Firstly, I would like to remind you general assumptions and goals in the project we currently are involved in. Then I would like to switch to the general approach to providing KPIs, so how to do that, then examples of KPIs, and then I will sum up shortly all the previous information. What is this methodology for? So we would like to propose some KPIs methodology to support operational control and strategic decision making by PTOs, so public transport operators, ensure accountability of these entities and also balance service quality, efficiency, sustainability, and public value. So meet all the demands they have to meet. Regarding the strategies for transition towards the circular economy, in our project, we proposed strategies for circular economy transition separately for vehicles, infrastructure, and energy. However, they are very, very connected with each other. Then, you already know that from the previous videos, we prepared pilots for testing the possibilities of transition in our partner cities into more circular regarding public transport. So we had few pilots to present to you as a general public how we can proceed with developing ourselves and our cities and PTOs and other actors into more circular in public transport. Then they were translated, strategies and pilots for the action plans for cities and public transport operators. And also very connected with this was a strategic plan, transition plan. And to have such a plan, you have to define or design objectives. They have to be translated into targets. They have to be connected into processes, and altogether in this environment and ecosystems, they have to be measured somehow, and KPIs are the way and the toolkit, we can say like that, to measure the processes, to measure if you meet your targets, and targets are connected, because they are very specific, they are connected with the objectives, which are more general. And that was our proposal, how to proceed with translating this strategic approach, strategic goals into more specific goals, and then very, very specific way how to measure. Main steps. So what you have to do to prepare finally the KPIs. So first, we have to map our processes. So the processes are similar in PTOs. However, the specifics of the city and national ecosystems of public transport operators make it a little different in different countries. So first, you have to map your processes to know what you are doing, in fact, and later on how to align your KPIs to your processes. Then you have to go to map stakeholders. So who is your stakeholder? More distant or more close to you. However, there are different stakeholders groups, starting with passengers, so your customers, going through policymakers, decision makers in cities, public transport authority, for example, also national agendas and national requirements, international requirements, etc. So map the stakeholders. Then map the requirements. So stakeholders are usually giving you some requirements, and also you are required to meet some rules of national systems or local systems for public transport. So, for example, SUMPs or SULPs in the city, so Sustainable Urban Mobility or Logistics Plan. So you as a PTO have to fit into this, let's say, map of different requirements. So first you have to know them, so you have to map them. Then make the analysis. So let's say first start with the pastel analysis to see what are the requirements, what is also your environment, maybe more distant one, and then make SWOT analysis, which will help you to know what are your strengths and weaknesses, what opportunities or threats your environment can give to you, so also stakeholders, and also the elements you will verify and inventory in pastel analysis. Then choose how to measure your performance, addressing all the important issues regarding the previous steps. So the measures have to be connected with your processes, with the stakeholders, with their or the other requirements, maybe not only the stakeholders' requirements, but also your own requirements, maybe internal ones. Then make what you have discovered in pastel analysis and SWOT analysis. Then why the KPIs of PTOs are different than for the others? Because PTOs have dual objectives, so they have to focus on service quality and at the same time on cost control, because usually they are separate entities which have to be cautious about their costs. Then strong regulatory and public accountability, so they have to respond and also meet the requirements from many sides and many stakeholders. That is why, and being also competitive towards a car and also attract people to use it. So there are many, many requirements they have to respond to. There is also high dependence on external factors, so traffic, weather, demand volatility, also in irregularity in this demand, seasonal demand, for example. So and also the different demand in the daily life cycle of the city. So also the external factors are highly impacting PTO's operations. And also KPIs must reflect controllability and public interest, of course, because the services are provided for the public. So how to do that, to prepare these KPIs and then implement them into your actions? So firstly, define the objectives, not the data. So what you want to achieve. And these can be made, this step can be made by, as I said previously, mapping your processes, mapping the stakeholders, their needs, also other requirements you have to meet, etc. So first define what you want to do and what are your objectives. Firstly, more general, later you will translate it into more specific actions. So, for example, objectives can be service reliability, punctuality, accessibility, cost efficiency, environmental and social responsibility, and in our project also circularity. Then translate these objectives into KPI areas, so, and also targets. So know what is your target, what is the target value you want to achieve. So this is very difficult to do that. So usually you need 1-2 cycles to learn what should be your target values. Then third, select KPIs using clear criteria. So in our case, when we are talking about circularity, you have to know if you want to avoid using some solutions or you want to strengthen yourself in using some other ones, if you want to increase your level of environmental responsibility, including circularity or not. Then fourth, define each KPI precisely. First, select KPIs using clear criteria, So select KPIs using clear criteria. So what is achievable for you regarding, let's say, also data collection now and in the future. And then see what is the list of your KPIs, draft list, let's say, firstly. Fourth, define each KPI precisely. So how it is designed. So what is the equation for the KPI, how to calculate it in future, what variables are needed to calculate these KPIs. Then set targets and reference values. So if you exactly know what is your KPI, what variables are included into calculating these KPIs, set the sharp targets then and reference values. So for example, compare yourself with others who are using these KPIs if you already know that from fairs or meetings with other PTOs. Next, assign responsibility and ownership. So who should be responsible for your KPIs, if it is one department or the whole company or just one person, or maybe it's also related with your subcontractors. You have to know that. Then collect the data. So map what data can be collected. If it's not already collected, try to collect it on your own and check how to do that. Then review, validate, and adjust your KPIs. For example, if you know that it's not achievable to collect the data about some variable you need to KPI, then you have to review your KPI list because it's not possible, or it is possible, but the data is not reliable. Then use KPIs in decision making. So if you have some scenarios and you have to choose one of the scenarios for the future, you have to analyze the data or outcomes or KPIs for one investment scenario and the other investment scenario, and finally decide what's better for you. Then what are the levels of circular economy adoption in urban public transport? We are focusing on PTO, so one operator or one transport corridor. So also we are proposing some solutions in here, some KPIs, which can be used in assessment of one PTO or one route or one transport corridor. Sometimes transport corridor is wider because some few operators can operate on this corridor, sometimes not. So in our proposal, it's wider, but of course, in the case of some cities, one operator can, sometimes on some corridors, only one operator can operate. So it can be wider, but not necessarily in every city. And of course, different KPIs can be assigned to transport corridor or operator. Then examples. We have the list of over 90 KPIs which can be proposed in circular economy for public transport operators or transport corridors or whole cities. So over 60 of them can be assigned to single stakeholder, so single operator, and some over 10 can be assigned to one corridor. So we grouped this in such a way to have general objective level to be assigned. So if it's corridor, if it's city, if it's single operator, then circularity rule. So if you want to reduce something, rethink, or remanufacture some part of, let's say, fleet, it depends on the context. Then compass element, because we prepared, as you already know, the circularity compass, and we wanted to refer to this compass in every KPI we are proposing. Then there is the name of KPI. So for example, catenary independence or development of the IMC fleet, etc. So you can go through that list and see if some KPIs are good for you as a PTO. Then example of targets, so how to define the target literally, how it should be built. Then equations, so how to calculate the KPI in order to have reliable data, so what data you need to calculate it. Then unit of measure, so very technical thing, how to present it later on in reporting, for example, before and after comparison. Then we assigned this to infrastructure, energy, or vehicles, because these were our areas of proposing strategies. That's why we assigned them to these three areas, but you can do this as you like. And then some short summary. So your KPIs must be derived from strategic objectives, not the data you already have, but you have to focus on collecting new data if necessary. Then each KPI requires a clear definition, target, how to calculate it, what variables are needed, what's the frequency of measuring that. it doesn't have to be frequent, of course, it can be just before and after some investment. Then data quality and transparency are critical in a public sector context, so you have to focus on that while proposing your KPIs. Someone has to review and adjust regularly your KPIs. It can be you or one of your employees. However, someone has to keep track how it's measured and if you should align it to something else or adjust to something else, so new regulations, for example. And then KPIs create value only when they are actively used in decision making. So please use this in your decision making process. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that we will meet shortly with some of you in our future meetings and future projects. Thank you very much and have a nice day.